So Lucas Matthysse is now the WBA Welterweight Champion, the regular Welterweight Champion, I guess, for what it's worth. After a terrible performance against Tewa Kiram, aka Tirachai Kretindengjim, um, Matthysse was getting the shit boxed out of him, man. Like, he was getting worked. He was getting schooled. He was getting schooled worse than he ever has been. Worse than Danny Garcia did. It's really funny because as I was watching the fight, I was thinking like, damn, I did think that this guy Kiram, he had a really good shot at beating Matthysse, especially if he would be able to take the punches from Matthysse. But, funny enough is he was just schooling him. I mean, he was making Matthysse miss like crazy. The only round really I thought that you could really give Matthysse was the second. He landed a couple of good shots towards the end of it. But otherwise, it was just a jab fest from Kiram. Just jabbing Mathisse's head off, just using very subtle movements. Just kind of classic textbook boxing, basically, to completely shut Matthysse down. And he was blocking a lot of those overhand rights, those kind of wide looping right hands that Matthysse likes to throw. Just checking it, just blocking it with his glove, and then he would either jab or hook Matthysse in return. And I was just watching, I'm like shit, I guess we're gonna have a new name on the horizon, a new name in the division to be talking about at welterweight. Like, hey, people are gonna have to take this dude seriously. I mean, he's completely given Matthysse the business, and then he got hurt, he got dropped, and he got dropped the second time, and he didn't get up, and as much as HBO kind of started to put it out there, and I mean, as kind of funny as it looked, both live and especially in the replays, Matthysse does hit very hard. I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say that like, oh, the fight was fixed and Kiram took a dive, but it definitely looked a bit not quite on the level, considering the fact that Kiram was just completely handling the guy, just completely handling him. And who knows? Maybe he just has like a glass chin, and I mean, not only that, Matthysse hits very hard. I mean, he did starch Lamont Peterson, who's normally known for being pretty durable. I mean, shit, even against Errol Spence. Errol Spence kind of beat him up by accumulation. He didn't just starch him in the fashion that Matthysse did. But yeah, man. I mean, regardless of whether Kiram took a dive or not, Matthysse looked absolutely terrible. He got exposed about as bad as an exposing gets. He lost pretty much every second of the fight, outside of a couple of instances, where he knocked Kiram down, of course, and then a couple of other moments where he was able to appear to, at the very least, trouble Kiram. There's a couple of body shots that Matthysse landed that were pretty good, but otherwise, man, he just got hands put on him, basically. I mean, he looked fucking clueless. He looked like the last 6 rounds of Provodnikov against Chris Algieri. Algieri just outboxing him, man. It looked very similar to that, pretty much this entire fight. And funny enough, I think Kiram, interestingly enough, the way he kind of sticks and moves is very similar to the way that Keith Thurman kind of sticks and moves. And considering Thurman is the WBA Super Champion, at some point Matthysse would theoretically be his mandatory whenever or if they ever actually order it. Matthysse afterwards, he called out Danny Garcia and he called out Manny Pacquiao. I mean, we'll see what Garcia really has left in the Rios fight. I get the feeling that Garcia's best days may be behind him as well, because I'm not sure if he's gonna have the same hunger with the loss on his record. It seems like a lot of his persona and mentality was kind of based off of his being undefeated. But I mean, it remains to be seen. Let's see how he does against Rios. And then Pacquiao, Pacquiao's at an age where, I mean, I think that Matthysse would have a reasonably good shot against him. Matthysse is still a very big puncher. Pacquiao is still a fighter that's open to be hit. And so that puncher's chance style of Matthysse, against top-level opponents, it remains. It remains there regardless of who he's fighting, whether it's Pacquiao, whether it's Thurman, whether it's even Spence, even. I actually think that at the very least, he still has a puncher's chance against anybody he gets in the ring with. I just wouldn't necessarily favor him over any of those guys, frankly. Not off of what I saw the other day. I mean, he just got that was ugly. I mean, that was about as bad of a win as you can get. Like, you know, typically a fighter that wins a fight, especially by knockout, there's usually something really good you could say about him. There's very little positive you could really give to Matthysse off of this win, other than the thing that was kind of known already, which is that he's a big puncher. He can crack. You know, he did put Mike Dallas Jr. to sleep. You know, he did hurt and drop and stop Peterson. You know, he did. I mean, shit. Even against Victor Postol, he hurt him on a couple of occasions up until the point where Postol's kind of accumulation got to Matthysse, and Matthysse thought better of it at that point. Provodnikov hurt him, and actually I thought he kind of he took a little bit of the steam out of Provodnikov in that fight. You know, he's definitely a big puncher. You know, Provodnikov is a guy with the iron chin. You know, the only other guy that really dissuaded Provodnikov from just marching forward after him was John Molina, who really is just a bigger puncher than Matthysse. You know, he's about as big of a puncher as it gets. You know, especially at that weight class. But those weight classes from 135 to 147. You know, this side of Randall Bailey, I'm really not gonna find anybody that punches harder than John Molina. Matthysse would be just a little bit behind them. But, you know, I say all that just to say that I was really disappointed. I really was. I figured it would either be a long night for Matthysse, where Kiram was able to kind of muscle him around, bully him, and eventually stop him, or that Matthysse would just light Kiram up and knock him out kind of quickly and cleanly. But it wasn't either one of those. It was Kiram putting on a bit of a boxing lesson, and then either betting on himself to get knocked out in the 8th round, and so he fell when he needed to, on some Pulp Fiction shit, or you know, on some what Pulp Fiction was supposed what's his face Bruce Willis was supposed to do in Pulp Fiction, and he wouldn't have been hunted down by Marcellus Wallace's people had he actually taken the dive when he was supposed to, or it was Matthysse scoring 100 hit home run after being completely trounced the entire fight. But I mean, either way, it was really just a terrible fight. That's all for this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.